Welcome back, Camping Nation. Today we're going to be talking about buying a new camper, either a new camper or new to you camper. And there's a whole lot to go over here as to what to buy and how to buy and what kind of features you need. So stay tuned. There's all kinds of things that are going to affect what kind of camper you have to buy. First, you got to figure out what kind you want. There's the pop-ups, the travel trailers, which are called the bumper pools, the fifth wheel, toy haulers. If you've got a Harley or a side-by-side that you want to take with you, those you can get those in both travel trailer and fifth wheel flavor. And then there's also the park model. Those are the campers. Now, if you want a motorhome, you've got a whole bunch here too. You've got the Class B, which is just a camper van. Class C, which is like a camper on a van cab chassis platform. Then there's the C Plus, which is the same as the Class C, only a little bit bigger. Then there's the Class A, which it comes in a couple different flavors also. You got the Class A with the gas engine. With the gas or Class A's, it comes in a few different flavors. It's usually like the Ford F450 chassis. There's no van parts or truck parts on there, not body-wise. It's just the chassis, and they build a camper over it. After that, you've got the Class A diesel pusher. Those are not only very expensive, but those are a much higher quality build. Usually you have a diesel engine and transaxle mounted all the way out and back, like a city bus. These ones, when you're up in the front and you're driving that thing, all you hear is the wind going over the windshield, because you cannot hear that engine at all. There's actually a light on the dash that lets you know if it's running. Those ones are very expensive. You can get a 20-year-old one and it's still going to cost you tens of thousands. Then there's also some specialty stuff. Do you like a vintage camper, like the old, what do they call them, the canned ham? Or you want a retro one, which is kind of like a fake vintage? Then there's the Airstream, and we're right back up to the top dollar once again. The Airstreams, they do have advantages, and they are very expensive. On this episode, we're not going to talk about the motorhomes. We're not going to talk about the vintage, the retro, or the Airstream. We're just going to talk about the trailers. Once you figure out what kind you want, you have to figure out if you're able to do that. Of course, there's financially. Are you able to do it financially? Some of these campers can get very expensive. Then there's also your tow rig. What is the condition of it, the age, what's its towability? If you have a 1995 F-150 with a straight 6 and a 3-speed, you're not getting the fifth wheel. So once you get that sorted out, then you got to figure out what kind of camper you need. How many beds do you need? Is it just you and the spouse? Is it you and the spouse with an occasional adult kid coming by? Is that adult kid bringing his kids and wife? How many beds do you need? Do you need a bunk room? Or can you get away with exposed bunks, exit out into the kitchen, for example? For little kids, that's usually not a problem. When you get into the older kids, the teenagers, they don't want to hang out with mom and dad as much. They want their own space. They want to go back there and play video games. And they'll always have friends coming over to camp also. So then a bunkhouse would be nice. Even if you're empty nesters, a bunkhouse is nice. You can rip out the couch and the bunk and put in a desk, and you can work from home, work from camp. Whatever you want to do. That's a whole room. It's bigger than your own bedroom. So then you also need to consider, how often are you going to camp? Is it going to be once a year? Is it going to be traveling the U.S.? Are you living it full time or seasonal? You need to figure that out, because the more time you're going to spend in the camper, the bigger the camper and the higher quality camper you're going to want. Then there's also going to be, what camping style do you do? Are you going to be outside all the time except for sleeping? Or is it a portable home? Also, are you going to be in campgrounds, or are you going to be boondocking? Boondocking is where you're going out with no hookups. Dry camping is something else it's called. You go out, you have no power pole, no electricity to plug into, you're just running off your battery. Bring your own water, and you carry your own sewage. If you're boondocking, then again, it's going to matter what kind of camper you get. You're going to want large tanks. Outdoor kitchen. Some people don't care for these. It's a waste of space. However, an outdoor kitchen will keep the heat out of the camper. If you're camping in Arizona in the summer, there's no shade, keeping the heat outside is going to matter. Another thing to look at is a second entry. Some campers will have a second door. Usually it goes into a second bathroom. Another thing I like looking at is that's his fire exit. Anybody in the back half of the camper, if there's a fire, it only takes like 3 minutes for the whole thing to go up. One other thing you got to look at, do you plan on triple towing? Triple towing is not 3 trailers. I don't know why, but they call this triple towing when you have 2 trailers hooked up to 1 truck. Somebody can't count somewhere. In the majority of the states, you can do that under certain conditions. Almost every state requires it to be a 5th wheel that's hooked to your truck, and then the trailer hooked up to a 5th wheel out back. You cannot tow another vehicle, another car, behind that camper. There's overall length restrictions. That one will bite a lot of people because their restrictions are rather tight. You've also got to consider what states are you going to be going through. When you're triple towing, you really got to watch your weights. You got to watch your length, and you got to watch the local laws. You've also got to look at your budget. Cash is king, always. If you do finance, they'll generally try and stretch out that financing. Campers are expensive. They'll try and stretch it out for 10, maybe even more. What they're doing is they're trying to get that payment down to where if you have problems, you're not going to skip out on the camper. They want to make that loan payment small and comfortable, and they're also collecting more interest. So there's something in it for them too. When you're going into a dealership, if you're buying with cash, don't say anything about that. You go and find out what you're getting. You iron out all the details. You get them to throw in freebies. You get them to deliver the camper today. And then once you have paperwork saying that you're going to pay $32,000 or whatever, by the way, I'm paying with cash. Dealerships hate it when you buy with cash because the dealership makes money off of the bank. If you're paying 3% finance interest rate, then generally 1% goes to the dealer. There's other ways they collect money off of that too. If you buy cash, they're losing money, and a lot of places don't even want your business if you're buying cash. Now, if you're buying cash, buying secondhand is really great because you don't have to worry about trying to find financing and bringing it with you. That can be a pain. When we sold ours, I got lucky. I sold it for $15,000, and the guy came over and counted out $15,000. That was great. I was able to get the title the next day, and he was on his way. So now once you got all that figured out, how much can you afford to spend? What kind of truck do you have? How many beds do you need? How often are you going to be camping? Now you got to look at a floor plan. Now this is something, so far you can do all of this online and sitting at home and just thinking about what you need to do. You can still do this online, but a trip to your local camping dealer, probably a good idea. When you go start walking through campers, you're going to see things that you never thought of. You're going to see things that you thought was interesting, but now you don't want it, like that outdoor kitchen. It does take up a lot of space. They have, in the wintertime, they usually have camping, camper expos and shows and stuff. That's a good time to go and look because they've got everything out and everybody's walking through every single one. I wouldn't buy from there, but it's a great place to go window shopping. Now you got to look at your floor plan. Do you want that bunkhouse? Or do you just want a 1-bedroom camper? Front living. Another thing that most people don't think about, what kind of dining room table do you want? This seems trivial, but it can really change your experience. We're on our second travel trailer right now. The first one we had the U-shaped dinette, but now we've got one that's like a McDonald's booth where you've got just the 2 benches and then the table. And that's even worse because now you're sitting right beside somebody and it's elbow to elbow. So now I miss that U-shaped. Advantage on both of those is they fold down into beds, and then you've got storage underneath the benches. There is a third option, and that is a table with chairs. This is more often on the higher end ones. The 5th wheels will have it, and the really decked out travel trailers, they'll have it sometimes. And I find them more comfortable. You lose out on a bed, you lose out on storage, but it feels more like home. And if you're spending a lot of time on the road, that might be important. But then again, so is the storage and the bed. Now there's also a couple different kinds of refrigerators you can get. You got to figure out what kind you want or what kind you need. If you're not spending very much time, it doesn't matter much. You get a small, I don't know the cubic footage, but it's a very small fridge, and usually they're two-way powered. They're powered by the 110 shore power, and then they also get powered by the 12-volt battery, and that runs the propane system. And the propane burns and keeps the fridge cool. They also have 12-volt refrigerators. I don't know how those work, but there's no propane. It just runs off the batteries, 12 volts. I'll assume that it takes a lot more amperage than the one that's just running the electronics to burn the propane. Also, again, usually in the larger high-end units, you'll have residential refrigerators, just like what you got in the kitchen at the house. Usually it's a side-by-side. It's a big, giant stainless steel beauty. But you get that, and you're only going to get that thing turned on when you have 110 power. Sometimes you'll get inverters. I think it's the inverter. I always get confused on the inverter and converter. But you'll get the inverter that converts the 12-volt DC into 110 AC. And you got to have a few batteries to run that for a while. When you get an outdoor kitchen, you also get a small fridge, a beer fridge, or like a dorm room fridge. So that's extra fridge space. Do you want a fireplace? They're nice to look at, they're pretty, but the big thing about a fireplace is that you have a built-in electric heater. If your furnace goes out, like ours did, then a 1500 watt space heater that's mounted to the wall would be really nice to have. That's also great to have a small space heater if you run out of propane, or if the campground's paying the electric bill. Why burn your own gas when you can use their electricity? Hopefully the owner of our campground's not watching this. We don't have a fireplace anyways. A fireplace is nice to have, but again, it takes up space. That could be storage, it could be a cabinet. That's what it is on our camper. If we would have gotten the fireplace, then we would have lost out on quite a bit of storage space. Do you need a 3-season camper? Are you going to be spending any winter times outside? Which winter's not really good for a camper, but you can make do if you need to. But the 3-season will go into early spring to late fall and keep you comfortable. They usually have an underbelly that's sealed up, and then the furnace will blow heat down into the belly to help keep your tanks thawed out. Other campers will have heated tanks. They'll heat your fresh water, your gray, and your black. I don't know what heated black water would be like, but I don't want to know. The counter space, again, the more you're camping and the more you're staying inside the camper, the more the counter space will matter. The amount of storage is important. You got to try and keep it lightweight, keep everything to a minimum, but you still need the storage. And again, the number of toilets, that goes back to the second door. How important is it to have 2 toilets? And then you've got this. You've got this circle with your money. You got this circle with the type of travel trailer you want. You got this circle with your tow rig. That little tiny spot right there, that's your camper. Find that camper and then go shopping. Now, when you go shopping, if you're looking for a new camper, that's the way a lot of people want to go. They say it's new, it's going to be better, it's going to have, nobody's been sleeping in the bed, nobody's been sitting on the toilet. These are all good reasons. You can get financed easier, and you can pick out something that you need. You don't have to go searching for the floor plan that you want. You can just say, I want that one. You don't have it, go get it. Whatever. There's plenty of reasons to buy new. However, campers, fifth wheels, pop-ups, they depreciate so fast. It's worse than a cheap car. As soon as you buy a cheap car off the lot, it's lost, what, 10%, 15%? You drag your camper off of there, it's worthless. You buy a $30,000 camper, and you go to trade it in next year, and they say, oh, we'll give you 12, even though you owe 28.5. Now you're putting that upside down equity onto the loan for the next camper, and now you're way upside down on that one now. It gets ugly. They'll let you do that too. But when you're buying a new camper, especially now, since COVID, you've really got to inspect it. During the COVID time, during the lockdowns, and shortly after the lockdowns across the nation, people were saying, we're still going on vacation. This year has been terrible. I want to take my family out on a vacation. And of course, camping really lent itself to COVID really well. You could be away from everybody, but with your family. You could be out looking at the desert, looking at the big hole in the ground in Arizona, the Four Corners region, all this stuff, and you can be miles away from everybody else and still having a good time. A lot of people were buying campers, new and used, and the prices went through the roof. Camper dealers had no inventory. So then all the people in Indiana building the campers, they had to get to work. They were cranking out twice as many campers with half as many workers. Quality control was non-existent. I've been told that the quality control person at one place, at one of the assembly lines, said, I don't care if it's right, just put it together and let the dealership worry about fixing it. If you don't know anything about the dealership's maintenance department, usually it's pretty bad. I highly recommend not getting a new camper, not for a couple more years. Things are starting to calm down and get a little bit back to normal. Give it a couple more years and the industry will get back to normal. Until then, it's going to be hard to find a used camper. Everybody's been really excited about how much they've been worth, and everybody was selling, but everybody was buying too. Take your time. Start looking now and planning now, and don't buy until May or June. So if you're buying the new camper, you've got to inspect it as if it's a used camper. Tell them that you want to put water in the tank and pressurize the system. Tell them you want to hook up to city water. Tell them that you want to hook up a propane tank and turn on the furnace, turn on the stove, turn on the water heater, turn on whatever. Turn it all on and see what works and what doesn't work. They were cranking out campers that had stoves that had an open recall. They didn't care. Send it out the door. Let them worry about it. So once you look at all the subsystems, you'll want to get up on the roof. Start looking at everything that's on the roof that's mounted up there. The air conditioner, is it bolted down? Around the black and gray water tank vent, there's a little vent with a cap on top of it. Got to make sure that it's sealed up properly. Refer back to the washing the camper video that I took where I went over some of that. I showed it on film. Then look at all the windows. Are they sealed up properly? The toilets, wiggle them. Are they bolted down? You got to look at everything. Look at the welds on the frames. We've had problems with bad welds on frames. That's how bad it got. Look at the suspension. If you don't know what you're looking at, bring somebody who does. That could save you thousands and thousands. If you see a lemon, don't buy it. If you're buying secondhand, you need to do all that because you can't trust the seller. When we bought our second camper last summer, we bought it in summer of 21. The seller seemed like a really nice couple. Down to earth, nice, polite people. And I took a lot of what they were saying at face value. You know, I asked them, are there any problems with the furnace or the water heater? Oh no, there's no problems at all. The heater didn't work. I didn't bother, even though I brought a 5-gallon jug of water, I didn't bother dumping it into the tank. They said everything worked great. Later on, when I went to put water in the tank, I found out there was no valve on the drain. As soon as I pour water in, it's pouring out onto the ground. Yay. Found out it had original tires. I found out that the black tank cleaner didn't work. It's got a little sprayer that spins around just like in a dishwasher. And I inherited a 2-year-old poop pyramid in the front black tank. That was fun. It took about a year for me to get all of it out. That was nasty. And the only way you can do that is to keep on flushing it. I probably flushed 100,000 gallons through there. I probably flushed a couple hundred gallons through there. No solids go into that toilet until I can fix that sprayer. So I'm to the point now where I'm almost caught up on doing all the deferred maintenance and all the screw-ups from the manufacturer. Now I can start playing with other stuff. I can hook up a backup camera. I can do, whatever. When you're buying secondhand, you need to inspect the mattresses. You're probably going to want to put a mattress pad on anyways, but you want to inspect the mattress. Look underneath of it, make sure there's no mold. If you camp in the off season, you get a lot of humidity built up under there and you'll get mold. You'll want to check for just general nastiness, cleanliness. You'll want to check for soft spots in the floor. You want to look around the slides. That's a really popular place for the water to come in. Go out and start stomping on the floor and see if you're finding any wet spots or soft spots. Take off your shoes. You can feel the soft spots easier. Check out the AC because that's an expensive problem. You want to check out every light, inside and outside. You want to look at the brakes. You want to look at the tires, see how old they are. Don't just look at the condition. The tread will be a mile deep and there'll be cracks between every tread. Between every ridge, there'll be cracks going through. They'll be dry rotted. So a lot of times they dry rot from the inside out. You don't know they're bad until they explode on the freeway. When they explode, they take floorboards and side panels with them. Check that ladder on the back. If it's got a ladder, make sure it's secured properly. Get up there. I think I already said this. Get up there and walk the roof. Inspect every square inch of that roof. Water damage is the fastest way to ruin a camper. The pop-up campers. The new ones actually have air conditioning on them and small kitchens. They're not as cheap as you think. Go look at the price of a pop-up and look at the price of a travel trailer. You'd be surprised how close they're priced. Pop-ups deteriorate faster. They are a pain to assemble and put up when you get to the campgrounds. Then you got to break it down, put it all back away. They are more likely to spring a leak. You have no privacy. However, you can pull that with a minivan. Some minivans. You can pull it with a station wagon. You're not going to pull much with a van or a station wagon as far as a travel trailer. Matter of fact, you're not going to pull anything. Drop in the comments any more questions that you have on this, and I'll see what I can't figure it out and do another episode if I need to. Thanks for watching. If you could click the like, click the subscribe, click the bell, and share. This is getting really close to the 30-minute mark. I try like crazy to keep them below 30 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it short. Again, if I miss something, put it in the comments. Tell me what I missed. Tell me what you want me to go over. Tell me what you want me to walk through. I'll use our camper and walk through stuff. Drop down what kind of your favorite camper is. Travel trailer, fifth wheel, toy hauler. Why do you like it? Till next time, we'll see you at the campground.